In every golden age beneath the verse, beneath all the glitter, there lies a quiet truth. Wealth has rarely been safe. Not during the ages of empires, not in the chaos of revolutions, and not even in those so-called stable periods between wars. From the palaces of Babylon to the villas of Rome, the rich have always lived differently from everyone else. Because they understood something most people never do. That money, whether in gold coins, grain, or land deeds, is not just wealth. Money is power. It's insurance. It's survival. And while ordinary people learn to trust the system, the wealthy learn to protect themselves from the system itself. The question isn't how they got rich. The real question, the one still worth asking today, is how they managed to stay rich when everything else was falling apart. To understand that, we need to look back to the earliest examples of wealth, when being rich didn't mean having a bank account, but controlling resources no one else could reach. In the city-states of Mesopotamia, 4,000 years before Christ, the wealthiest merchants and rulers didn't just store their silver in vaults. They tied their fortunes to temple loans, farmland leases, and trade monopolies stretching across rivers and deserts. The Sumerian kings who ruled from cities like Ur and Lagash protected their wealth by intertwining it with religion. Temples weren't just places of worship. They were the central banks of the ancient world. To seize a temple's assets was to offend the gods. And that religious shield made elite fortunes politically untouchable Egyptian pharaohs, and their courts used a similar system. During the Old and Middle Kingdoms, wealth wasn't kept in coins, but in tangible assets. Vast, fertile lands along the Nile, granaries full of wheat, and gold mines in Nubia. It was impossible to seize these without dismantling the state itself. The elites even developed an early form of trusts by donating their estates to temple foundations, ensuring that ownership passed safely to their heirs even if the government changed. If you were an elite landowner in ancient Egypt, inflation or currency collapse hardly mattered. Your wealth was in the land, and land produced food, the ultimate store of value in that world. By the 5th century BC, in classical Greece, a different approach emerged: diversification through mobility. Greek merchants in Athens, Corinth, and the Aegean Islands made fortunes through maritime trade. They knew a coup or a war could wipe out wealth kept in a city's treasury, so they held deposits in different city-states, invested in cargo ships, and built trade relationships with bankers as far away as Egypt and the Black Sea. This was an early form of offshore banking, not hidden in accounts, but spread physically across regions. Even if Athens fell to Sparta, a clever merchant could sail to Rhodes and start again. Still wealthy Rome took this principle to another level. The Roman elite, senators, generals, and the famous equestrian class, knew the dangers of political upheaval all too well. Under Sulla or Julius Caesar, dictators could rise overnight, property could be confiscated, and those on the wrong side could lose everything. Their solution was diversification, political insurance, and direct influence over the financial system itself. The richest Romans didn't keep all their money in coins. They owned land in multiple provinces, invested in tax farming contracts, and lent money to foreign kings and cities, knowing repayment was backed by Roman military power. Some moved their portable wealth, gold, jewels, and artworks, to safer regions far from their enemies. In modern terms, they weren't just diversifying their portfolios. They were diversifying their jurisdictions. When the Western Roman Empire began to collapse in the 4th and 5th centuries AD, An interesting pattern emerged. As the state lost its power to maintain order, elite families shifted their fortunes from public assets to private and hidden ones. Instead of lending to the imperial treasury, they invested in fortified estates, private armies, and direct trade networks with barbarian tribes. When Rome finally fell in 476, the imperial treasury was empty. But the wealthiest families still controlled the land, the food supply, and the labor force. The state was gone, but their fortunes, protected by centuries of strategic planning, survived. The Middle Ages brought both new challenges and new tools. Between the 11th and 15th centuries in Europe, the wealthiest merchants and nobles used the church as both a bank and a legal shield. When kings needed money for wars, they often seized the assets of their rivals. But property donated to the church, in exchange for spiritual favors, was untouchable. That meant rich families could park their assets in monasteries, retrieve them later, or manage them through loyal abbots. In 15th century Florence, banking families like the Medicis combined this with an emerging system of bills of exchange, early forms of paper credit that allowed them to move wealth across borders without carrying gold. A Medici could go bankrupt in one city and still be rich in another, because his fortune existed as ledger entries in distant markets. In the Islamic world's golden age, between the 8th and 13th centuries, different methods of wealth protection emerged. Merchants in Baghdad or Cairo used the hawala system, an informal network that transferred funds without moving physical money. It was based on personal honor and family reputation, making it nearly impossible for rulers to seize wealthy families also invested in caravans, real estate, and long-term trade monopolies that continued to produce income even during political chaos. The core principle remained the same: spread the risk, place assets beyond a ruler's reach, and keep part of your fortune invisible. By the early modern period, to the 16th to 18th centuries, centralized states had become stronger, but the elites adapted again. The great merchant families of Venice, Amsterdam, and London learned to tie their fortunes to the state's growth, but in a way that gave them leverage. They bought government bonds, supplied ships for naval wars, and extended loans to rulers in exchange for privileges and tax exemptions that made them nearly untouchable. They turned their wealth into a political shield. Governments might crush ordinary citizens with taxes, but well-connected merchants grew richer with every crisis. All these examples point to one truth: protecting wealth has always depended on two things: control and distance. Control means owning assets that keep their value in any political climate: land, trade routes, resources. Distance means spreading those assets across different systems, jurisdictions, and forms of money, so no single disaster can wipe them all out. The wealthy of the ancient world understood something most people still don't. Wealth kept entirely within the official system is always at risk, and that lesson matters today more than ever. We live in a digital age where governments can freeze accounts with a keystroke. Currencies can be devalued overnight. Stock markets can lose a quarter of their value in a week. Inflation quietly eats away at your purchasing power. The elites of the past never trusted the state with all their wealth, and neither should you. The tools are different now. International diversification, precious metals, alternative assets, private holdings. But the logic is exactly the same. History doesn't repeat itself, but the same traps always return. People assume stability will last until the day it doesn't. The wealthy of the past acted before the storm hit. They spread their risks and secured lasting value. Real financial freedom isn't just about having money. It's about making sure that money survives anything. The greatest lesson from history is simple. The system works for those who know how to work around it. Everyone else learns, too late, that the safe money they trusted was never truly theirs to control. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History holds the answers, and I'll show you where to find them.